Welcome back. This is the Po2 podcast. I'm Jay,
And I'm Amber.
and today we'll be going over the real premiere for season 3 of the Charmed reboot.
This episode is called Can't Touch This.
And the reason why I say real is because the first 3 episodes of season 3 is actually meant to be the last 3 episodes of season 2. And of course, what to blame but COVID. So that being said, if you think about it, season 3 is only 15 episodes instead of 18. I was really hoping that the CW would air the rest of season 2 as planned over the summer and the fall, like they did for the finale for Supernatural. But what they ended up doing is just cutting it right there at episode 19, making it the season 2 finale. And then they just included the rest of the season 2 episodes as part of season 3. For sticklers out there, we should be doing the first 3 episodes of season 3, and that should be where it starts. But personally, I just count those episodes as season 2. And it makes sense plot wise because they literally wrap up season 2. And the 4th episode of season 3 really works like a premiere. You can tell there's a time jump, there's update in their style and hair.
Yeah, they look very different. And there's a different energy about it. It feels very fresh. It feels very new. It feels like they're starting something.
What I like about the beginning part of the episode is that it's one of the few times we see them act like sisters. We're getting like a glimpse of their day in the life routine.
Their everyday normal life, which is very rare for this show. There was a vibe about it that was very reminiscent of the original show. And it was very uplifted. It was quite fun. They did a little bit of everything, really. You know, we had a little bit of emotion, we got the drama, we got the fun demons, we got a lot of magic in this episode, and I really liked the magic. I thought the effects were really good. So, in general, I think this was a really good episode.
And considering we just rewatched the pilot, it's so weird watching Rupert Evans now versus the pilot episode because they really made him to be this old, stuffy, kind of uptight character in the pilot. And now it's like he's on par with the rest of the cast. He's much more youthful. And also, the romance between him and Macy is a little bit more believable. Whereas in season 1, when they were hinting at it, I remember being like, oh God, he's too old for her. The way that I saw it before, it was like huge age gap. Whereas now they seem closer in age just because of the way they made him look, his style and everything.
Yeah, he looks a lot younger than he did when we were first getting to meet him, especially in this episode. He was quite tan, youthful looking. He just had that energy about him. He didn't seem like stuffy Harry from season 1.
In this episode, right away, we're introduced to the allergy storyline. As we know, that is the metaphor for COVID.
That was an interesting way that they actually did that. And I thought that it was really different. They needed a way to keep the actors apart. So they had to come up with a way that they could sell that to the audience. So to do that, they created this allergy, which basically means that they can't come into close contact with each other. Otherwise, if they do, they'll be blasted apart and they'll be injured.
When Harry orbed in and he activated the allergy, made them all repel and fly off. It just made me kind of roll my eyes a little bit because there was a definitely a comedic delayed reaction. I mean, it worked, but it's kind of ridiculous that they were pretty much standing there for a few seconds. But then in all the other instances, it's like an instant reaction. It's just one of the things that makes the show's inconsistencies really pop out.
What made me laugh a little bit was as Mel was walking towards Maggie, she had the cups in her hand and she's walking really fast and she's moving the cups side to side. There's supposed to be hot tea in this cup and she's walking about like there's nothing in it. And I just thought that was quite funny because if there was actually water or liquid in there, she wouldn't be swinging it about like she was. And then she put it on the side and I thought, okay. If there was stuff in there, you would have spilt that. I don't know. It's just one of those little technical things that I spot that I thought was kind of humorous to see Melanie Diaz do. I think she was a bit too preppy in that scene. I think she was a bit too eager with the liquid. or the cup rather.
Speaking of preppy, I really like how she's dressing all professional, really pulling off that teacher look. I mean, all of them had an update in their look.
I really like Maggie's curly hair. I
Mhm.
think it makes her look a lot younger. And I don't know if they were going for this particular look, but Alyssa Milano actually had the perm curly type hair in season 3 of Charmed in the Seekers episode, the
I
episode with
vaguely
her.
remember that.
She did rock that look. And I actually think that curly hair actually really suits Sarah. It makes her look a lot younger.
Sarah Jeffrey.
Yeah, Sarah Jeffrey. It makes her look a lot younger. And it just is cute. You know, it's Maggie.
I don't know if it was her who said it or if it was an article or maybe it was a fan reaction to her new hairdo. But I remember seeing on Twitter last year, I think that's her natural hair. Because as I mentioned in our reboot review, later on, we find out that Maggie is half black. And I don't want to speak for her, but I do know that there is a pressure for Black or biracial actresses to straighten their hair. And I know that
Mm.
Madeline got a lot of criticism over her hair. They were telling her, oh, straighten it so you look like the others. And she was like, no, this is my hair. And I think Sarah Jeffrey probably was straightening her hair. And now she has an opportunity to rock her natural curls. Of course, I don't know that for sure. For all I know, this could be a choice in style, or maybe that is her natural hair. I don't know. But I just thought it's a great choice for this season.
And what did you think of the moon poppy?
I thought it was cute to get a little piece of lore. I like any time they bring in obscure references to their little universe, when they bring in herbs and magical potions and spells, anything like that, I'm a huge fan of.
I wasn't a big fan of the moon poppy thing, only because I feel like the writers tend to do that a lot. They use a certain plant as a cure, and it just feels a little bit
A little bit
just
easy.
yeah, just oh, here's a magic cure and it's moon poppy. It's just I would have rather they maybe a potion, maybe it
Yeah.
being a type of spell or something, rather than being a plant.
Well, to me, it seemed like they used the moon poppies as a bait and switch device for the plot because Macy brings it up to possibly cure the allergy. But then it ends up coming into play later when Harry's poisoned by the
Again,
Chupa-alma. Speaking of, there's several subplots in this episode.
the episode starts off with, well, after the opening, we get to see the girls, Maggie and Mel. They attend Seattle State College. Is it Seattle State College or is it university? I think it's college.
That I'm not sure.
So they attend the college and we see them outside and they're talking about the fact that they're back to being the Veras again
Mhm.
and the house is uncloaked, which, you know, I spoke about this in the first episode we recorded, that I wasn't a fan of that. That's just one of the things that they decided to do. Obviously, we then go into the college and we get to see Maggie. She walks into the classroom, the university professor or college professor, lecturer, whatever.
Professor
He,
Lawrence.
yeah, he assumes that she's an intern.
Professor Lawrence assumes that Maggie was bringing him coffee and even calls her kiddo.
Yeah, in a way that makes her feel a little bit taken aback by that. She's not
Yeah.
impressed. And we also get to see Antonio in this scene, who is Maggie's
Rival.
yeah, rival, which I'm not a super fan of Antonio's casting. I think the actor's too old. That's my opinion. I'm not to say that I'm against him, but I think he looks too old to be in Maggie's class.
Yeah,
Maybe
I don't care too much about the character himself, but I do appreciate at least how they used him to show how Professor Lawrence immediately dismisses Maggie in favor of Antonio, calling into their shared college history, I guess calling him an Andover man.
and then we also get to see Mel back to teaching, which is a very welcome thing, in my opinion. I really like the fact that she's back in the classroom. I don't know why it took over a season for them to do that. I know that they said that they were supposedly in hiding. They hadn't revealed themselves to the outside world yet, but I would have liked to see her in the classroom sooner. Either way, it was nice to see her back in the classroom. And we get introduced to Kevin. He's a new addition to the cast. He's transgender. And we're introduced to this plot of basically he's being bullied.
Misgendered and bullied.
Yeah, misgendered and bullied. Now, I actually relate a lot to this. And it was really nice for me to see a trans person actually on trans. I felt represented because I am a trans woman. So to see someone like me on the show, it's a really good thing. I think it's a positive thing for a lot of trans people, especially younger trans people who maybe just kind of coming into themselves and things like that, seeing themselves represented. And they do tackle the issue of transphobia in this episode, which is something that is very real and happens a lot. It was just really nice the way they dealt with that.
Mel ends up being very concerned over Kevin's well-being and discomfort in the situation, and she goes to the dean to arrange a special dorm for him to stay because his roommates are doing things like leaving bras in his bed and misgendering him constantly. What do you think of Kevin's refusal to the special dorm, saying that he wants his roommates to face their discomfort? Is that something you do?
Probably not. I would have been out of there. I wouldn't stay around. I wouldn't want to be around those kind of people. That's just me personally.
So you would take the special dorm?
Yeah, I would. If someone was offering me a nice dorm to myself, especially a fancier one, I'd be like, hell yeah, especially if I'm sharing with a bunch of idiots.
I think both takes are admirable because one, you're preserving your mental health. I probably would do the same thing. There's only so much crap and abuse I would take.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
then Kevin's reasoning for it, he's kind of making himself a martyr so that he could educate his roommates on it and have them face the fact that they're living with the trans man. And he hopes that he can change their minds. I mean, that's admirable. And I get that.
Yeah.
But we also have to take care of our mental health. And I
Mm.
think Mel did a good job pointing that side too. So overall, I like how that played out. I don't like when shows push so hard a certain thing, any hot button topics going on in current events. I don't like when shows really force it on us. But I think in this case, this was something that they did well.
Yeah, they did do it well. I totally agree with you.
We also have the subplot with Macy being the scientist and trying to cure the allergy. And she's very fixated on it.
I mean, that's just Macy. She's always in the lab, although she hadn't really been in the lab much in season two as much. But it was nice to see her doing that. Off topic, I thought she looked hot. With her hair up, she looked really good. Her outfit, like the way she had her hair, I thought, yeah, you go, girl. I thought she looked great. And obviously, she's trying to figure out the cure to this allergy.
Oh, speaking of, I actually admire a lot how Madeline Mantalk, I like how she pronounces Latin.
Yeah, she's
I
good with that.
I'm not 100% sure if she's doing it right, but the way she does it just gives it a bit of authenticity. I noticed that she pronounces the V's like W's and she puts this authoritative tone when she does her spells in Latin or when she reads in Latin. I like how she does it.
Yeah.
So naturally, that leads into our myth arc storyline for the season, which is the cause of the allergy and what that is setting up for the rest of the season. Macy does the revelation spell. She thinks it doesn't work and she walks away. And then Harry sees that it's working.
The revelation spell sets off a bomb or an arrow, a dart, flies into the wall and blows a hole in the command center wall. And Harry unearths a stone tablet with all these odd symbols on it.
What ends up happening throughout the episode is all three girls get possessed by this unknown mysterious creature. I don't know what language they're speaking, but we finally see through Macy that it's making them dig up its bones and do some sort of ritual or spell in some unknown language. Either way, I liked how their eyes glowed. And I think Madeline did a good job when she did the scene where she was possessed and she was in this trance.
Well, I thought Maggie's eyes looked funny. I don't know why. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
just this generic yellow-eyed thing. At first, I honestly thought that it was going to be some sort of cat demon.
Well, yeah, because it almost sort of reminds me of when Piper became the Wendigo. Her eyes went a different
Mhm.
color.
Yeah, it was like that bright yellow.
I thought, on a side note, that the scoring in this episode, the music, the background music was really good.
Yes, yes. The song at the end was so good. I actually had to go find and save that song on YouTube. It's called Save You by Tim Halperin. And that end of the episode actually reminded me a lot of the Vampire Diaries, like what it was famous for. Having these beautiful songs play, and then there's these emotional things going on. Ultimately, I didn't think that it warranted such a great song. I think they could have used it for something more emotional, but it was still good. And like I said, it pretty much was a premiere episode.
Mm. Back to the bones thing.
Yeah.
Do you know why they were digging up those particular bones? Was there a reason for those particular bones, or were they just any bones?
I was a little bit confused on why they were doing that because I thought the Chupa-alma was like a spirit or ghost or something, and it was possessing the girls to dig up its body. And maybe the ritual they did brought it back to life.
Oh,
But
that
that
might be.
but that didn't really make sense because later on we find out that there's this prison world where all these ancient creatures that haven't been seen in thousands and thousands of years have been trapped. I don't think it needs to be dead to be trapped. So I'm not really sure, but that seems to be the case that it was having the girls dig up its bones so it could come back to life.
After Macy is possessed and she uses this spell to essentially bring this Chupa-alma to life, I suppose you could say, give it a physical body, it kidnaps Harry.
Mhm.
And the girls end up trying to find him, which I thought was really adorable because both Mel and Maggie, they realize that there's something going on. They have a conversation in the house. But anyway, I just thought it was really cute that both of them were in their pajamas. And Maggie's in this adorable pajama set and she's got her hair up. She just looks so cute and she just looks Maggie. And I guess they use the command center witchboard, whatever it's called, to find out where the monster is and where Harry is. They go there and they end up in the woods, and Harry's been poisoned again. I am so over them using that storyline. Like, how many times has Harry been poisoned? I swear he was poisoned like 3 or 4 times in season 2. Now he's poisoned again. I'm like, really? They spend more time bloody helping him than they do anyone else.
And basically, now that they're all allergic to each other, he can't orb them anymore. So, really, he's only as useful as this talking book of shadows, which is what Leo did a lot in the original show.
Macy can't give him the potion, the moon poppy potion or whatever that supposedly can cure him. But she can't hold him, touch him directly, so she uses her telekinesis. And Maggie and Mal go off to find the Chupa-alma, and it confronts them in the woods. It appears, and it's this big, ugly-looking monster. I didn't think the CGI was bad. It's a lot better than Tedious was. I just thought it was a really good way, the way they've done it. And I could overlook the fact that it was CGI. Obviously, I do prefer when the demons are actually physically there. Even with CGI, you can sort of tell that it's CGI.
Mm.
So the girls, they use their powers to fight it off. And once Harry's cured, Macy uses her telekinesis to like stop it. or whatever that thing is when she shoots the beams out of her hands. I think it's called telekinetic immobilization or something along those lines. She kind of like immobilizes it, and then Maggie uses her empathy power to basically relieve the anger that the Chupa-alma has. And then Mel comes along and does her thing, and it goes boom.
I do like that they did this monster of the week thing for this episode and the next couple of episodes. I was hoping that we could find out what its actual name was, but I guess it's kind of cool that they get to name it. And as far as names go, Mel picked a decent one because it's reminiscent of the Chupacabra, Chupa-alma, means soul sucker. So I thought it was kind of cool. On Supernatural, they had Dean name a couple of monsters. So
I really liked the fact that when Mel actually blew it up and it exploded, it turned into this silvery goo and covered the cast. And I think they only actually had one chance to do that scene. I think they only had one take to get that right, I believe. So, anyway. I also wanted to just touch briefly on two other things that I forgot
okay.
to mention. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was Maggie's panic attack. Maggie actually has a panic/anxiety attack
Okay.
in this episode with the lecturer. He belittles her and
Uh,
sides with Antonio.
Honestly, that scene was a little painful to watch because I understand they wanted to drive home the fact that her empathy powers are kind of out of whack and she can't handle it. So she had to leave. But I just felt that scene just went on a little bit too long and it was very, very hard to watch.
Well, I think the reason that they actually did that is because Sarah Jeffrey wanted them to incorporate anxiety into the show because Sarah actually has anxiety disorder.
Mhm.
So she mentioned that to the writers and they decided to do that. Another thing that I really liked was the scene where Mel is sitting on the sofa and she's reading her book, and Macy storms in the house. The door flies open fast, and then Macy walks in, and she's frustrated because she's tried to come in contact with Harry, and she's basically been hurt by the allergy. But I just thought that was a good thing to do. Like, if I had powers, that's the kind of way I would do it. If I was in a bad mood, I would just like fling the door open. It just seemed like a natural thing that you would do if you had powers. They would come out that way. And so I appreciated that because it didn't seem sort of like they were just using her powers for the sake of it. There was an actual reason for her to be doing that. And it was reflective of her emotions because she was pissed off. She was angry. She was annoyed. So, yeah.
I did not really care for the overuse of transitions. And by that, I mean how you see the encounter between Maggie and Professor Lawrence, that whole exchange where he's dismissing her for Antonio. And then it cuts to Mel teaching about marginalization. And then
Yeah.
later on, we see Macy and Harry having a little spat over the whole allergy thing where they can't touch. And then it cuts to Professor Lawrence teaching about intimacy. And then later on, Maggie uses what she learned in that class to give Harry advice over the whole allergy thing with Macy. So for someone like me who overanalyzes things, it just drives me nuts when it's so intentional and you know what I mean? To me, it's bad writing. I just wish that they would improve a little bit to make things less obvious.
Another thing that I really liked is at the end, Maggie gives her lecturer a book, and the book's called Men Talk Over Me.
A guide
And
to understanding toxic masculinity.
I thought that was good. And I like the way they kind of added the music to the scene. It was very CW-ish.
Speaking of books, you know me, I'm a huge geek over prop books. And I noticed that they had three fake books shown in different scenes. There's Men Talk Over Me by Rashida Riverson, does not exist. There's that book that Mel wanted to teach about gender studies, and it's called Overcoming the Boundaries of Gender by Maya Guzman. And that doesn't exist either. And then Harry was using The Art of Ancient Symbols, 6th edition by Graves, to research the symbols he found on that tablet. So for me, I had to pause and read those titles and see if they were real. I love doing stuff like that. So I just wanted to bring that up to people who also like little obscure facts like that. So at the end of the episode, after they defeat the Chupa-alma, a portal rips open and lets out another monster, which sets up the next episode.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
When I saw that, I'm like, oh, cool. It's a plot device for a monster of the week type thing. I thought it was a really cool way to open up the season, the rest of the season, because I know technically it's the fourth episode, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts as we wrap up this episode?
I think it was one of the best episodes of season 3. And also, it was written by Joey Falco and Geraldine, whoever that is.
And as we know, Joey Falco is one of the new showrunners for season 4.
Yeah, and he worked on the show from season 1, so he knows that world very well.
I thought it was a strong episode. I do not think it was one of the best for me, but it was strong compared to a lot of season 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so next week we will be doing the review for episode 5.
Yep, we sure will. I did want to make a side note. Obviously, both of us, me and Jay, we have very different schedules. So there may be times where we don't necessarily post once a week. We will do our best to post as much as we can, but there are obviously times where we can't for various reasons, technical glitches and things like that. But we'll do our best to keep you guys updated. If you follow us on Twitter, we will let you guys know if there is going to be
Any
maybe a
delays?
delay or anything like that. We can keep you guys posted. And our Twitter is Po2 _ podcast. And that's our Twitter account.
So we will see you next week with our review for season 3, episode 5. You do you.
Yep. See you then, guys.
All right, bye.
Bye.